Welcome to BeFM Drama. I'm your host, Ryan Estrada. For 22 years, Charles Dickens tried to write sequels to his most famous book, A Christmas Carol, but none of them met the acclaim that book had. In fact, many of the stories written for the series have been forgotten for generations. But here at BeFM Drama, we won't let them die. We're adapting every single one of them into a brand new, modern-day radio play starring a cast of Busan actors. Speaking of things that never die, that's what this week's story is about. In winter of 1845, Dickens put out a book called The Seven Poor Travelers, with a selection of stories that we will be adapting in the coming weeks. We're adapting two of those stories this week, In the Old City of Rochester and The Story of Richard Doubledick. It's a tale of a man who could not be killed, and all the things that kept him surviving. Also, today we have a very special guest star. It's Kerry Mayer, a local celebrity that you may have seen on TV during Korean baseball games. He's one of the only people in the crowds amongst all the stuffed animals. He's better known as Santa Grandfather or Wakokin fan. Our story begins again in the ambulance of paramedics Goblin and Fern, as Goblin has a story to tell. Please enjoy part 1 of BeFM Drama's production of You Can't Kill Dick Doubledick.
Boy, oh boy. Sure seems to be a lot of people getting their arms stuck in stuff tonight, huh?
That seems to be the theme.
I mean, I'm out here to save lives, not pull arms out of heating ducts. Listen, call your mommy and go buy some cooking grease to get your own elbow out, not us. That's all we seem to get, is people with their arms stuck in holes they're not even supposed to have arms in.
Well, there was the guy who got his head stuck in a fence.
Ugh. Another call like this and I'm gonna need another vacation.
You just had a vacation 2 weeks ago.
Not enough of one. It was crazy. I mean, it was more stressful than work.
That seems to be the way.
Okay, so what did you do on your vacation?
I visited an old friend.
Wait, you have friends?
Of course I have friends.
No, I mean besides me. You sleep all day and then work all night. The only people I've ever seen you talking to are like the radio and patients.
Nah, never mind.
It was a patient, wasn't it?
It was the first patient I ever saved.
Yeah, that tracks.
I have other friends who aren't patients.
Are they your co-workers?
Shut up.
Look, I know you're gonna end up telling me a story about this guy, and you're clearly not gonna ask me how my vacation went, so go ahead and do it.
A man named Dick Doubledick.
Excuse me?
You heard what I said.
Yeah, so I did.
I saved the guy more than a decade ago, but I never forgot him.
It's gonna be pretty hard to forget a guy named Dick Doubledick.
It was my first day on the job. He was in rough shape.
So what happened to old Doubledick?
He wouldn't tell me. Said it was none of my business. Threatened to knock me upside the head for getting in his business. I didn't argue. No one expected him to make it. We almost pronounced him dead, but he pulled through. A year later, I got a call to his house again. Completely different circumstances, but I saved him again. We just kept meeting, and he just kept living. Eventually, he moved out of the city to a retirement home upstate. I went to visit him. He joked that I saved him so many times that I was family, and he should put me on his emergency contact list. At least I thought he was joking. Every once in a while, I get a call that he's dying. I take a couple days off and head upstate to see him. He always makes it. But one time, it sounded serious. I got a call from hospice.
Oh, man. I'm sorry. Where was it?
Watts Charity Hospice, up in Rochester. I walked in to talk to the doctors, and they prepared me for the worst. And they said I made it just in time to say my goodbyes.
Ah, sorry, buddy.
But when I walked into his room, except for all the tubes, he looked like $1 million. He had a big grin on his face and he reached out for a hug.
How old was he?
You know what? I have no idea. And at this point, I'm afraid to ask. Not because it's awkward, but because I'm scared. He was always private. So if I asked, he'd probably knock me upside the head. His face is well worn as though he'd lived through some stuff, but he had the most youthful demeanor. I'd believe he was 60 just as easily as I believed he was 120. He greeted me warmly.
Well, look what the cat dragged in.
Hey, Dick. How you doing today?
Well, I thought I was great, but if they called you up, it must mean I'm dying again.
Everything will be fine.
Uh-oh.
What?
You got all serious on me. Normally, we laugh about it. The doctors must have really had some bad things to say, eh?
We don't need to talk about all that now.
Yeah, they spooked you. Don't worry about all that. The doctors don't know what they're talking about. You can't kill old Dick Doubledick. Lord knows I've tried.
Well, that's a trap. I know better than to ask what that means.
What does that mean?
Anytime I ask you about your past, you threaten to knock me upside the head.
I do not. You're just nosy, that's all. I used to be a spy. I have lots of secrets that I need to protect. Some of my life is classified. Some of it is stuff that even I don't want to remember. And some of it is none of your business. But I appreciate you coming all this way. Would you like to know about all the times I almost died?
Is this a trick?
Look, I can see you're spooked. And I know you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. I can tell you a little bit. Settle in. I'll tell you a story.
Yes, sir.
I had a rough childhood. Let's say that near deaths 1 to 100 happened in there. Not much more to say about it, but I kept going, just wanting to grow up, start my own life, build my own family. Shortly after I turned 18, I was doing something dumb that I shouldn't have, and I had a car accident. Let's call that near-death 101.
Why, what were you doing that you shouldn't have?
Boy, I will knock you upside the head.
Sorry. I got lulled into a false sense of security.
Anyway, I'll tell you what kept me going that time. It was Mary.
I won't ask about Mary.
Oh, I'm always happy to talk about Mary. She was the nurse that took care of me and the love of my life. We fell madly in love until that fateful day of near-death number 102. I was a troubled young boy who had become a troubled young man, and I did something very dumb and very unforgivable. It almost killed me, but I lived.
I see.
You got something you want to ask?
No, sir. This is your story. You tell the details you want to tell, and I'll keep my questions to myself.
Good. You're learning.
I'm just happy that you survived.
At the time, I'd wished that I had died, so that I wouldn't have to hear my sweet Mary to say, "Richard, I swore never to love another man, and to never stop loving you. And I fear I'll keep that promise, but I'll have to do it alone, because I can never see you again. May God forgive you." I won't count it as one of my near deaths, but I could have died right there and then. My heart was torn in two. I immediately enlisted in the army and went off to war, determined to die.
He's a veteran? What war was this guy in?
You know what? I have no idea. And I sure wasn't gonna ask.
I had never mounted anything, and I thought I would die a soldier. At first, that meant I was the first to charge the enemy, to dive toward a grenade. Eventually, it just meant terrible, dangerous decisions and too much to drink. I almost died another 100 or so times, but I always survived. I don't know how. I don't remember much from that time because I was never much sober. I do, however, remember finding myself in my captain's office. I don't remember how I got there. I was in a drunken haze. I tried to steady myself and clear my vision. The floor spun, the walls of the tent waved like we were underwater. The chair felt like it was forever tipping backwards, and I focused in on the captain's piercing brown eyes as he said, "Do you know where you're going, son?" I took a little offense at that since he was only 2 years older than me, but I responded, "To the devil, sir?" He responded, "Yes, and very fast. You're liable to die if you keep this up." I told him, "I should hope so. Then you and the world will be rid of me." He stopped to get a good look at me, and I could barely sit up in my seat. He told me, "You're as bad a case as I've ever seen, even worse. Surely you must have something to live for. Don't you have a special someone back home?" "No," I told him. "Mary never wants to see me again." Then he asked me, "Surely you must have a mother waiting for you to make it back alive?" "Blessedly not, sir," I slurred back. "I'm thankful to say that she's dead. And if she were alive, she certainly would not be awaiting the return of her son, if she could even bear to call me that. I could see the captain mulling over what to say next in his head, considering asking me about friends or dogs waiting for me, but he could see those were all sad stories. So he said, "So I suppose you plan to come here and die a hero?" Well, I told him, "I'll die as something. I've been nothing so far, and I like to think that maybe one day Mary will hear that I made something of myself." The captain got a big grin on his face and said, "Well, I have the most wonderful news for you." I asked what it was. He exclaimed, "No one here likes you." I didn't know how that was supposed to be good news, but he continued, "Your reputation here is terrible. People think you're no good, dangerous drunk." I shouted at him, "How's that supposed to make me feel better?" He said back, "Because if you die now, we'll have forgotten about you in a week. No one will remember you, your story will never be told, and whoever Mary is will never even know you died. So I'm afraid you have no choice but to keep on living for a while. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Now we just have to find you something to live for." I wished him good luck in that fruitless endeavor, but he had an idea. "I'm off tomorrow morning on a mission, a secret mission, and I don't plan on dying. I made a promise to my mother that I'd make it home alive, and I plan to keep that promise. So I need someone to go with me. Someone brave enough to charge into enemy fire, like you did back there, but someone with enough self-respect and self-preservation to find some cover, use some strategy, and avoid putting us all in danger." I asked him, "And you think that's me?" He responded, "I know that if you can do that, if you can help me complete this mission, help me survive and get me home safely to my mother, then I'll make sure you're remembered. Not just remembered, but celebrated. I swear once you do that, you can get shot by all the enemies you want. Dive on as many grenades as you please. We'll tell your story so far and wide that Marie will hear them singing songs about you." I responded only, "Mary." He held out his hand to offer me the deal, and I shook it. And then, that was what kept me going. No, I can't tell you what the mission was, but I can tell you it was a success. A success that made us legends. Success that led to more secret missions. I marched by the captain through mission after mission. We fought together. We bled together. Everyone knew us. They told stories about us. Good stories. Not the kind of stories I was used to people telling about me. The kind that turned Mary away. Stories about the 100 or so times we almost died. Stories of how we never did. Stories that are classified by the government. And as such, you will not be told. But I'll tell you that the captain and I were unstoppable. But I still had to get him home safely. That was what kept me going after all.
Did you?
That brings me to, let's call it near death 301. I took a bullet to the arm. I was lucky. It went right through me. But the same bullet went into the captain's chest. I saw the face of the officer that had shot us, and I fired after him, but he got away. As much as I wanted to chase after him, I had made a promise not to leave the captain's side, to keep him alive. But he knew this wasn't going to be a near-death experience for him. This was the end. He stared right down into my soul with those deep, dark eyes and said, "I need you to do something for me. Go see my mother. Tell her what happened. Tell her I'm sorry I didn't keep my promise." I answered, You can tell her yourself. You don't need to give me another mission just to keep me going. I already have one, and I'm getting you out of here." He said, "I need your help to keep my mother going. Tell her how we became friends. It will comfort her as it comforted me." And then he took his last breath. I howled in pain and rage so loud that all around us the fighting stopped. But that wasn't the story that was told. And it wasn't a story about me meeting the captain's mom. It was a story of how when I found the officer who had killed the captain, there would be howling like that again, and it would come from every last man, woman, and child who knew him. That face was burned deep into my mind, and that became what kept me going. I searched and searched, looking for the man who would receive my revenge.
Did you find him?
I searched until near death 302, when I was injured enough to get an honorable discharge from the military and a one-way ticket back home. I didn't have much to keep me going then. I'd failed in my mission to protect the captain. I'd failed in my mission to find him justice. I felt like an all-around failure. I had one mission: to see his mother. But I can't say I was looking forward to it. I dreaded it. How could I tell a mother that her only son was dead because I failed to protect him? Day after day, I put it off. I drank. I tried to forget. Until near death 303, when I crashed my motorcycle and realized that I couldn't wait anymore, or I risked leaving this life before I fulfilled my promise. I bought a ticket and headed to the captain's hometown.
What did you say to her?
That I won't tell you. It was a private moment between her and I. But suffice to say, everything. After I said the things I'd written down, I got emotional. I told her about the promise I made to her son. Then that took me backwards to his death, which took me back to our relationship, which took me back to the day he saved my life, which took me back to the troubles I had to marry to my mother. You know how private I am. I don't tell anyone anything, but no one but the captain, and now the captain's mother.
And me, apparently.
Oh, believe me, I've still got secrets from you. But I told her things I never told anyone before, or since. And at the end, she hugged me. And we both cried and cried in one another's arms for what must have been hours. We didn't say it out loud. We didn't need to. We both knew in our hearts that I had a new mother, and she had a new son, which meant I had a new reason to keep going.
Well, what a sweet little heartwarming story that was. So check this out.
Oh, that's not the end. Old Doubledick still had a few hundred deaths left in him.
23 Dickens.
Well, sounds like you're gonna have to save those ones for later. We've got a city to save. Go for 23 Dickens.
We have got a report of a man with his arm stuck in a vending machine in Balsley Park.
Yeah, that's about what I expected. You'll have to finish your story later.
Come on, let's go get that arm out of that vending machine.
Thank you for listening to BEFM Drama. This was You Can't Kill Dick Doubledick, based on In the Old City of Rochester and The Story of Richard Doubledick by Charles Dickens. This radio play was written by me, Ryan Estrada. It starred Sam Hazelton as Goblin, Kelly Brassbridge as Fern, Carrie Mayer as Dick Doubledick, and Chelsea Oster as Dispatch. Goblin's theme is by Unheard Music Concepts. Hidden Agenda, Pilot Error, News of Sorrow, Clash Defiant, and Crossing the Divide are by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech and released under Creative Commons Attribution License. Tune into the next episode of BEFM Drama when we'll share part 2 of the story in You Still Can't Kill Dick Doubledick. Thank you for listening to BEFM Drama.